Welcome to Context Window, your weekly look at the bleeding edge of AI coding tools. Let's see what's new. We're tracking something in the AI coding space that feels less like innovation and more like a quiet takeover. Microsoft, through GitHub, is about to start automatically harvesting detailed interaction data from millions of Copilot users. And here's the kicker. It's opt-out, not opt-in.
Right. The fine print reveals a calculated move. They're not just improving Copilot, they're building an exclusive proprietary pipeline for reinforcement learning from human feedback. It's a strategic maneuver to reduce their dependency on a certain major partner in the AI space.
So less about user benefit, more about corporate strategy. That's a significant claim. We'll unpack exactly what that means for developers and the broader AI ecosystem.
All right, let's hit the radar. First up, Anthropic's Claude code just made Sonnet 4.6 the default for its free and pro users.
And this isn't just a minor update, is it? We're talking a massive 1 million token context window in beta and nearly 80% on the SWE bench verified evaluation. That's serious horsepower.
It really is. What's more, Anthropic's internal tests show users preferred Sonnet 4.6 over their previous flagship model, Opus 4.5, nearly 60% of the time. They're praising its ability to deeply understand code context and its resistance to over-engineering.
So effectively, flagship-level orchestration is now available at a mid-tier price point of $3 per million input tokens. My sharp take, the flagship model premium for daily coding tasks is officially dead. When a model can hold 1 million tokens in context without losing its way, the bottleneck shifts entirely from the AI's raw intelligence to the developer's ability to orchestrate it.
Absolutely. Next, we're seeing some friction with Cursor's shift to a usage-based credit system, particularly for their agentic composer mode. Developer forums are lighting up.
I can imagine why. Agentic coding means the AI is constantly looping, reading, planning, executing, fixing errors autonomously. If you're paying by the token, that could get expensive fast.
Exactly. Users are finding their monthly costs becoming highly unpredictable. If the agent gets stuck in a hallucination or a debugging loop, the developer is essentially paying a financial penalty for the AI's mistakes.
And that's the problem. Metered billing for autonomous agents creates a massive chilling effect on developer flow. You can't achieve the promised utopia of hands-free coding if you're constantly watching the taxi meter run up during complex refactors.
Spot on. Now, capitalizing on that friction, we have Windsurf from Codium aggressively marketing its Cascade agent with a generous free tier.
This is smart. Windsurf is positioning Cascade not just as an autocomplete tool, but as a first-class collaborator. It operates as a persistent, project-level agent that builds a mental model of the entire codebase.
Right, and it integrates with custom tools via the Model Context Protocol. They're attempting to commoditize the standard AI editor experience, offering a budget-friendly but highly capable alternative.
It's the classic tech disruption playbook. By offering a robust, project-aware agent experience at a lower barrier to entry, Windsurf is transforming the IDE war into an agent war, forcing incumbents to justify their premium price tags.
And finally, a huge one. Cognition Labs has drastically reduced the entry price for its autonomous AI software engineer, Devin, from a steep $500 per month to just $20 per month for its core plan.
Wait, from 500 to 20? That's not a price drop, that's a crater.
It's astonishing. This new tier gives individuals and small teams access to Devin's virtual IDE, where it can autonomously check out code, run tests, and open pull requests. You pay the $20 base, then purchase additional agent compute units for heavier workloads.
So my sharp take here is that the $500 paywall was an artificial moat that has completely evaporated. At $20 a month, the software engineer in a box has been thoroughly commoditized. Devin is no longer just competing with enterprise budgets. It's competing with Netflix and Spotify for a share of a developer's personal monthly subscription. It's a game changer for accessibility. Okay, that was a brisk run through the current landscape. But now, let's dive into the core of our investigation: the Copilot data grab and Microsoft's quiet pipeline. We mentioned earlier this surprising opt-out policy from GitHub. Can you walk us through the timeline and the details?
Absolutely. This all started with a blog post on March 25, 2026, from GitHub's chief product officer. The announcement stated that starting April 24th, GitHub Copilot would begin harvesting interaction data from free, Pro, and Pro Plus users.
Interaction data. That sounds a little vague, doesn't it? What exactly does that entail?
It's intentionally broad, but it refers to the detailed interaction data they are harvesting. The crucial part is why they're collecting it, to train and improve their AI models.
And the big problem here, the red flag for us, is that this is an opt-out policy. It's not asking permission, it's assuming it.
Precisely. Users are automatically enrolled in this data harvesting unless they manually navigate to their account settings, and the path is quite specific: github.com/settings/copilot/features, and explicitly disable the feature.
So if you're a casual user or even a professional who just doesn't pore over every GitHub policy update, you're now contributing your code and your interactions to Microsoft's training data by default.
That's the reality. As that April 24th deadline approached, the confusion and frustration in the developer community grew loud enough that GitHub felt compelled to release a detailed FAQ on April 9th. But even that FAQ, which was meant to clarify, really just clarified the opt-out mandate.
So from a journalistic perspective, what does this illusion of choice mean for the average developer using Copilot?
It means that the default position has shifted from user privacy to corporate data acquisition. It places the burden entirely on the individual to protect their data rather than on the platform to obtain informed consent. For many, especially those on the free or pro tiers, they might not even realize this is happening until much later, if at all. It's a quiet pipeline, as our report title suggests, that many won't even know they're feeding.
And that's where we start to see this broader strategic endgame that the report hints at. This isn't just about making Copilot better, is it? There's a much larger play at hand.
Absolutely. The independent analysis we've seen points to Microsoft building an exclusive proprietary reinforcement from human feedback, or RLHF. This interaction data is gold for that.
RLHF is essentially teaching an AI what good looks like, right? Humans provide feedback on AI-generated responses, and the AI learns from that. So, by collecting this data, Microsoft is directly supervising and refining its own models with real-world developer interactions.
Exactly. Think of it as a massive, ongoing, real-time data set of developer preferences, corrections, and successful code integrations. This direct, proprietary feedback loop is incredibly valuable. It allows them to fine-tune their models with a level of specificity and relevance that's hard to replicate with generic datasets.
So, this isn't just about improving Copilot generally. It's about giving Microsoft's models a unique competitive edge based on the daily work of millions of developers.
Precisely. And the underlying strategic motivation, according to our sources, is to reduce their long-term dependency on OpenAI. Microsoft has invested heavily in OpenAI, but strategically, no tech giant wants to be entirely reliant on an external partner for such a critical component of their AI strategy. This RLHF pipeline gives them an internal, self-sustaining mechanism for model improvement.
That's a significant shift. It's almost like they're creating their own internal feedback engine to slowly decouple or at least gain more leverage in their relationship with OpenAI.
That's one interpretation, yes. By developing this robust internal RLHF capability, they can develop and refine their own models more independently, ensuring their AI capabilities are more tightly integrated and under their own control. It's a long game, but this data grab is a foundational piece of it.
So on one hand, developers are getting this powerful tool, Copilot, which is fantastic. But on the other, they're unknowingly, or perhaps unconsensually, contributing to a strategic power play that could reshape the entire AI landscape.
That's the tension. The convenience and power of the tool come with a cost, and that cost is developer data, which then fuels Microsoft's competitive advantage. And the opt-out mechanism ensures that a vast majority will simply pay that cost without even realizing it.
Let's talk about this privacy double standard you mentioned earlier between individual developers and enterprise clients. Is there a different rule book for the big players?
This is where it gets particularly galling. The same policy document, the FAQ, clarifies that enterprise customers have explicit opt-in controls over their data. They can choose whether their code and interactions are used for model training or not.
Wait, so if I'm a free, Pro, or Pro Plus individual user, my data is automatically harvested and I have to find the setting to turn it off. But if I'm a large corporation paying for an enterprise license, I get to choose whether my data is used? That's a massive disparity.
It's a massive contrast. It highlights a clear two-tiered system. For individual developers, the default is data collection. For enterprises, the default is protection, with an option to contribute if they choose.
Why do you think that is? Is it purely about leverage? Enterprises have legal teams and negotiating power?
That's certainly part of it. Enterprises often have more stringent data governance requirements, and they demand more control over their intellectual property. GitHub, and by extension Microsoft, needs their business, and they're willing to make concessions on data policy to secure those lucrative contracts. Individual users, on the other hand, are seen as less impactful as a collective in terms of negotiation. They're simply part of the data pool.
So effectively, if you're a small startup or an independent developer, your code is fueling Microsoft's AI models by default, potentially competing with enterprise clients who have the luxury of controlling their data.
It presents that risk, yes. Your everyday coding activity, which could contain proprietary logic or innovative approaches, is contributing to the collective intelligence that Microsoft is building, while larger entities maintain strict control over their contributions. It's a tacit admission that this data is valuable, and its collection is treated differently depending on the user's commercial status.
And then there's this technical aspect you mentioned earlier, the at-rest data loophole. What's that about?
This refers to another clarification in the FAQ. GitHub states that private code at rest, meaning code stored in private repositories, is not used for training models.
That sounds reassuring on the surface. My private repos are safe.
But the key phrase is at rest. The moment you interact with Copilot within that private repository, if you type a prompt or accept a suggestion, that interaction data is fair game. It's no longer at rest in the context of Copilot's operation.
Ah, I see. So while the static code base of my private project isn't being scraped, any dynamic interaction I have with Copilot within that private project, which might expose elements of that private code, is being collected. It's a subtle but crucial distinction.
It is. It creates a perceived sense of security around private repositories, but it doesn't extend to the flow of interaction data that can still reveal proprietary information or coding patterns from those same private projects. It's a loophole that allows them to say your private code is safe while still collecting data about your private code interactions.
So essentially, they're not taking the whole book, but they're taking notes on every chapter you read, every page you turn, and every highlight you make within your private library.
That's a great analogy. They're getting a very rich, dynamic understanding of how you work with your private code, even if they're not ingesting the entire code base itself. And that's incredibly valuable for training AI models that need to understand context and developer intent.
This all paints a picture of a very deliberate, multi-layered strategy from Microsoft. It's not just about pushing a new feature, it's about fundamentally reshaping how AI models are trained and who controls that training.
It is. This isn't just about Copilot as a product, it's about Copilot as a data acquisition engine for Microsoft's broader AI ambitions. And the default opt-out, the enterprise individual double standard, and the at-rest nuance all serve that larger strategic goal.
We've covered a lot today. Let's try to synthesize some key takeaways for our listeners. First, it's clear that the landscape for AI coding tools is rapidly evolving, with new models and agents constantly challenging the status quo, often at significantly lower price points.
Yes, the premium for flagship AI models for daily coding tasks is largely gone, and the focus is shifting to effective orchestration by the developer rather than raw AI power. Also, the rise of agentic coding, while powerful, introduces new financial considerations under metered billing models.
And this GitHub Copilot policy update is a stark reminder that convenience often comes with implicit costs. The default opt-out policy for interaction data on free, Pro, and Pro Plus tiers means millions of developers are contributing to Microsoft's AI training pipeline, whether they realize it or not.
A critical point. This feeds into Microsoft's strategic objective to build an exclusive RLHF pipeline, aiming to reduce its long-term reliance on external partners like OpenAI and to solidify its own AI model development capabilities.
And finally, the stark difference in data privacy controls between individual Copilot users and enterprise clients, along with the at-rest data loophole, highlights a significant double standard. It shows how data collection policies can be selectively applied based on user leverage, and how technical definitions can obscure broad data harvesting practices.
It's a crucial lesson in reading the fine print, or in this case, understanding the default settings.
So, to leave our listeners with a couple of thought-provoking questions, how much data are you comfortable contributing to tools that significantly enhance your productivity, especially when that data could be shaping the future of AI in ways you can't control? And what does this two-tier data policy imply for the future of open-source contributions and individual innovation in the age of AI?
That's all for this episode of Context Window. Join us next time for more on the AI tools shaping how we build software. If you're building with AI, subscribe. We cover what matters.
Ship smarter, not harder.